Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajagacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naran Shaivan Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayed Nasupraya Shirubhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 19, text number 15. So I'll warn you all now, my Sanskrit pronunciation is sometimes good, sometimes not so good, so please forgive me. I've heard all of you guys chant, and you're like amazing, so please forgive me if my chanting isn't the best. Tannam Prabhu Tvam Kulale Vararpitam Twan Mayayaham Mamatam Arhoksajam Bindhyam Yena Shuvayam Sudurbitam Videhi Yogam Tvaina Swabhamiti Tannam Prabhu Tvam Kulale Vararpitam Tvam Mayayaham Mamatam Arhoksaja Binyam Yena Shuvayam Sudurbitam Videhi Yogam Tvaina Swabhaviti Tannam Prabhu Tvam Kulale Vararpitam Twan Mayayaham Mamatam Arhoksaja Bindhyam Yaneshu Vayam Sudorbitam Videhi Yogam Tvaina Swabhavam Iti.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. So we are very blessed to have with us His Grace Devavrata Prabhu. Of course, we have been having his nice Sangha in other ways for some number of months. And he traveled all different parts of India to give his Sangha to others also. At the same time, we somehow by some situations, we could schedule his Bhagavatam only now. So I would like to briefly introduce Prabhuji. So His Grace Devavrata Prabhu comes from America. He got introduced to Krishna consciousness in 2015. He read the Science of Self-Realization and he became convinced. He wanted to join immediately, but then for the pleasure of the Lord, till 2017 he waited, and in 2017 he dedicated his life full time for the service of the Lord. And in 2018 he got initiated by His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, and ever since then, all over North America, he has been traveling in Sankirtan party. For 9 to 11 months he travels. He distributes books even in universities and gets youth. And he's a very, very, he's full of fire and the fireball of enthusiasm. So anyone who comes in touch, he has been traveling to different voice centers all over India. So all the devotees, like, they just cling on to him. So like that in universities in America also he has been doing. He also has been contributing to various temples there in US for various projects. Like he led the Bhakti Shastri. He is leading the Bhakti Shastri in San Diego. He also led the Brahmachari Sangha. In America, the Brahmacharis are all over national Brahmacharis, no, not national, continental Brahmachari Sangha. So that way, so all of them together would come. So Prabhu was orchestrating that. And along with that, he's now also working on making a curriculum for online cultivation of those who are touched by book distribution in the Sankirtan parties. So he's making a curriculum for that, how to make that happen. He's also assisting His Grace Radhashampu in different endeavors in the American preaching, which Radhashampu is embarking on from the last couple of years. And he went to Varanasi, so there he met His Grace Achyutmohan Prabhu, and along with him and under the blessings of His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, he is working on one new project to cultivate Western people. There are lakhs of Western people who come to Varanasi. So he's going to cultivate them, and for that he will be coming regularly to India, and we hope to Pune. And he's a very, very powerful personality, in very shastrically well read, as this case Vaisheshika Prabhu, you can understand. So his proper disciple, he's very well read in Srila Prabhupada books, quotes scriptures for everything that he speaks, and he's very realized also, full of enthusiasm, as you must have seen his dancing kirtans. So I've been also getting to personally associate with him for these last few months, and it's amazing association to be with. When I asked his introduction for the youth preaching program, so he said, I don't want to be called a mentor or something. I want to be called the perpetual seeker of the truth. So very unique introduction we had, perpetual seeker of the truth. So he is actually at the core searching for the truth, and very, very, very sincere practitioner. In America, to be a brahmachari and share brahmacharya enthusiasm with others is not easy, but he is full of conviction and enthusiasm. We are very blessed to have him here. Let's welcome him and honor him here by loudly chanting Haribo! 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 Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So, before I read the verse, I want to offer my obeisances to all the senior devotees that are present. And give me their blessings. I hope it's okay, but I consider Pune like a home in India, so get the blessings of grown-ups in the house. Grown-ups in the house is very auspicious. And also, I would like to seek the blessings of His Grace Balaram Leela Prabhu. Balaram Leela Prabhu was the first devotee to actually befriend me when I started coming to the temple. I joined in Seattle, and it was like a 99.9% Indian temple. So I would just go there and wash the dishes and do what I can, and he was one of the first people to speak with me, and so when I saw him this morning, I became so joyful. So I feel like a kid, kind of doing a show for his parents, because Balaram Leela, it's like offering Ganga water back to the Ganga, because he was my initial inspiration for continuing on in Krishna consciousness, and he played a big role in helping me dedicate my life via the Brahmacharya ashram. He was the first one to kind of push me in that direction and encourage me. So to be here with him and to be able to speak the Bhagavatam for his pleasure and for the pleasure of Antardweep Prabhu and the other senior devotees is a great honor, and I just am grateful to be here and have been in the association of all of you for the time that I have. So please pray that I can come back more and more and more, and please accept me as one of your own. So now we'll read the word for word. Tat, therefore, na, our, Prabhu, O my Lord, Tvam, you, Kukaleya Vararpitam, invested in this bad body full of stool and urine. Tvat Mayaya, by your illusory energy. Aham Mamatam, the conception of I and mine. Adhoksaja, O transcendence. Pidhyama, may give up. Yena, by which. Ashu, very soon. Vayam, we. Sadurbidam, which is very difficult to give up. Videhi, please give. Yogam, the mystic process. Twai, unto you. Na, our. Swabhavam, which is symptomized by a steady mind. Iti, thus. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Shri the Prabhupada Ki Jai. Therefore, O Lord, O Transcendence, kindly help us by giving us the power to execute Bhakti Yoga so that we can control our restless minds and fix them upon you. We are all infected by your illusory energy. Therefore, we are very attached to the body, which is full of stool and urine, and anything related with the body. Except for devotional service, there is no way to give up this attachment. Therefore, kindly bestow upon us this benediction. Purport. The Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhavamad bhakto mandyagi mam namaskuru. The perfect yoga system consists of always thinking of Krishna, always engaging in devotional service, always worshiping Krishna, and always offering obeisances unto him. Unless we practice this yoga system, our illusory attachment for this bad body, which is full of stool and urine, is impossible to give up. The perfection of yoga consists of giving up attachment for this body and bodily relationships and transferring that attachment to Krishna. We are very attached to material enjoyment, but when we transfer that same attachment to Krishna, we transverse the path of liberation. One has to practice this yoga system and none other. Om Agyana Timidandasya Gananjana Shalakoya Chakshurun Minitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svam Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savatutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschachade Shatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopeswa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarum Vischa Kripa Sindhuva Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namashreshna Manu Api Sachiputra Matas Rupam Shri Rupam Sasya Graja Murupurim Mathurim Gosvaratim Radha Kundam Girivaram Mahoradika Madhavam Sam Prapto Yasya Patita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi He Guru Gyanadadi Nabandhu Svadananda Karunakaya Sindhu Vrindavana Sinahita Avatar Prasida Radha Pranaya Pachar Anadana Srinam Dante Ridam Yache Puna Punaha Shriman Rupa Padam Bojo Dudisham Jamajanmani Shri Krishna Charanam Bhujo Premam Ritam Mahabhure Namaste Dinadina Mam Kadachit Kim Smarisyasi Vagi Shayasya Varane Lakshmi Yasya Chavakshashi Yashyaste Hridaye Samvit Tam Nashim Ham Maham Bhaje. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, our Abhideya Acharya, or Rasa Acharya, he explains what is sadhana bhakti. And in that definition, he says, Kritya sadhya bhavat sadhya, bhavasa sadhanabhitaha, nitya siddhasya bhavasya, prakritam hridya sadhyata. And what he says is that bhava is eternally situated within the heart of every living entity, nitya siddhasya bhavasya. And that through the process of sadhana bhakti, one prepares the heart for the descent, the independent descent of bhava bhakti to touch the heart of the living entity. And so our goal of sadhana is to attain bhava. But any old sadhana won't do. There needs to be a sadhana that is in alignment with the ultimate sadhya. This is explained by Sanatana Goswami. So in the process of engaging in devotional service, there are activities which can contribute to our determination, Devavrata, that attainment of our ultimate sadhya. And those activities which are most favorable is the kind of sadhana that we want to accept. But simultaneously, if one accepts a sadhana or externally is accepting a sadhana that is favorable, but their attitude is incorrect, their disposition is not proper due to inattentiveness, then the ultimate goal which they will achieve will not be in alignment with the conclusion of our acharyas. So it's very important that we understand the process of sadhana bhakti, and it's very important that we understand with where we're trying to go. And this verse is describing two different types of people. Someone who has accepted the process of sadhana in the proper consciousness, and then someone who is engaged in sadhana bhakti with improper consciousness and thus have not transcended the bodily conception of life. Mamcha yovibicharena bhakti yogena sevate saguna samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Someone who's engaging in devotional service properly, in due course of time, should be able to go beyond this ahamata and mamata, this I and mine consciousness. But if someone is engaging in sadhana bhakti incorrectly, we'll know that they're not engaging in sadhana bhakti correctly, because this I conception and this my conception will still be very much engraved within the consciousness of the sadhaka. So it's explained that someone who's engaging in nam-bhajan and they're not careful to avoid offenses in the process of chanting that holy name, the result is that there will be different weeds that begin to manifest within the heart of a living entity, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls upashaka. They're weeds which strangle the creeper of devotional service, and they're so elusive that they could be appearing as if they are devotional service, because you're engaging in sadhana bhakti, But because you're engaging in sadhana bhakti with some type of ulterior motive, which has come about due to inattentiveness, then one's progress will be greatly reduced. So these different weeds which can pollute the heart is known as nisidhachar, which is improper activity in the process of engaging in devotional service. Srila Prabhupada has prescribed various different activities which one should accept and which one should avoid. And at the time of initiation, the sadhaka, he accepts to avoid illicit sex, he avoids meat eating, he avoids gambling, and he avoids intoxication. So if one is engaging in the process of sadhana bhakti, and they are experiencing an attraction for these activities in an abhorrent way, then it's indicative of improper application of the process. And the mind is so elusive, and the mind is so stubborn, that we could be engaging in sadhana bhakti, but then simultaneously be tricking ourselves into thinking that the nisidachar, improper activity, is actually proper activity. So it's very important that we pay attention to our activities and that those activities are in alignment with our superiors, in alignment with the previous acharyas, and we remain honest and simple. Someone who has the heart of simplicity, saralata, they won't become obscured by improper behavior. Second obstacle on the path of devotion which can come in the process of hearing and chanting, nisidhachar and jivahimsa. Jivahimsa is that activity which promotes violence towards other living entities. So if one is engaging in sadhana bhakti, but they aren't developing this disposition of par upakar, that they don't feel a need to extend themselves for the purpose of jivadoy krishna nam sarva dharma sar, then they are actually committing violence to other living entities, because those who have received a great treasure, it is actually their duty to take up the mission, to continue to give it to other people. And if one is feeling lax or lethargic in this particular activity of pritivichayacha nagarati gram sarvatra pachar hoibe modanam, one doesn't try to find their place within the movement of expanding and in giving the holy name around the world, then this is another kind of weed which can strangle the bhakti lata creeper. And then simultaneously, there's kutinati, which is one begins to find fault with the Vaishnavas, and they develop a diplomatic way of interacting with Vaishnavas. But we can see from the example of the previous acharyas, particularly Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, the way he would interact with different Vaishnavas is he would never see fault in them. He understood that people have different svabhavas and people have different karmas, but because they have a propensity for service, and that service is being directed towards Krishna, then those faults should be overlooked because they're engaging in devotional service according to their own realization. So therefore they shouldn't be criticized, rather they should be encouraged. So if one is developing a critical disposition, this means that their mind is becoming absorbed in the svabhava and karma of other living entities, and they're actually falling victim to this I and mine consciousness, because I want to be better than this particular devotee, and what is mine, no one else can have. And so when someone else possesses what I have, or what I think I have, I begin to criticize them. Maybe they're a good orator, maybe they're a good kirtan leader, whatever it may be, there's an envious disposition that one harbors within the heart towards the Vaishnavas which are excelling. And rather than us being able to benefit from their association, that association, due to our improper disposition, actually becomes very, very dangerous, because we can end up committing offenses, and this hati-mati offense can actually completely spoil our advancement in devotional service altogether. And then there's the famous puja, labha, and pratishta, which Raghunath Das Goswami gives a very interesting analysis of what this puja, labha, and pratishta is. Particularly the realm of pratishta is the one I would like to focus on, because he says that pratishta is like a prostitute which is dancing in our heart. And what's the nature of a prostitute? The nature of this prostitute is she's dancing within her heart with her paramour, known as deceit. And this deceit and this desire for name and fame are dancing with each other. And what are they doing? They're eating dog flesh. They are eating dog flesh within her heart, and they're dancing with each other. And the nature of a prostitute is that she's shameless. So she's eating dog flesh, dancing with her paramour deceit, eating dog flesh. And why is Raghunath Das Goswami giving us such a vivid example? Because this desire for name and fame is a very shameless one. Because we are taking the disposition of being sadhus, we're taking the disposition of chanting the holy name, but inside we're harboring desires which are actually counterproductive towards the cultivation of our Paribhasa Sutra, of all devotional activities. Trinadapi sunuchena, tarorapi sahishnuna, amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Shishi Radhavrindavan Tanja ki jai. Shishi Gauranitai ki. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai. So all of these devotional practices that are, all these devotional dispositions, they're actually just attitudes which we have towards a devotional service. And what is the underlying attitude that we're cultivating, which is unfavorable to the cultivation of devotional service? The underlying attitude that we're cultivating, explained by the acharyas in relationship to chanting the holy name, is this api pramadaha, this inattentiveness in our practice. To be inattentive in our nam bhajan, to be inattentive in our dealings with sadhus, and to be inattentive in our study in the Shastra, what it does is it produces weeds which are unfavorable for the cultivation of bhava bhakti. So it's explained in the Upadeshamrita, or it's explained in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, that the primary symptom of one who is engaging in the process of surrendering to Krishna is this goprit vre, this accepting oneself to be a servant of Krishna, which means that by accepting myself to be a servant of Krishna, I'll immediately accept things which are favorable. Anu kulasya sankalpa pratikulya savarjatam. Rakshasi titi vishvaso goprit ve varanam tata. Atmitnik shepakar panye sadvida saranagati. That these 6 symptoms are the symptoms of someone who's accepting the process of devotional service. And when one is actually surrendering to the process of devotional service, it is the practical expression of faith actually being born within their heart. Shraddha Shabde Vishvas Kohe Sudrit Nishchaya. Krishna Bhakti Koila Karma Sarva Kritahoy. That when one has developed this kind of faith, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the practical expression of that faith is one begins to engage in the process of surrender. And Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha explains that the Sarup Lakshana of this process of surrender is to accept Goprit Ve, that I'm simply being maintained by Krishna. Because when one is accepting the fact that I'm being maintained by Krishna, what they're doing indirectly is they're surrendering this mamata and ahamata. They're surrendering this I conception and this my conception. One begins to accept that I am a servant of Krishna and that Krishna belongs to me. This begins to become the abhiman of the living entity when they're accepting the process of surrender. And simply by accepting that I'm being maintained by Krishna, that my position is jiver swarup hoy, Krishna or nityadas. When one accepts this disposition, then immediately they are interested in accepting things which are favorable for the cultivation of devotional service. And these things which are favorable to the cultivation of devotional service is explained by Rupa Goswami in his Upadeshamrita. Utsaha nischaya dayat, tat karma pravartana, sangha tyaga satovrite, sadbir bhakti prasidyati. And those things which are unfavorable, which actually contribute to our inattentiveness, due to cultivating these particular attitudes which are unfavorable to devotional service. The result will be we become inattentive in our practice because these things contribute to a disposition within our consciousness, and the natural byproduct is we won't be able to experience absorption in our nam bhajan and our study of Srimad Bhagavatam. And these activities are atyahara prayasascha, prajalpo niyamagraha, janasangas chalolyacha, sadbir bhakti vinashyati. And the reason why these particular activities are unfavorable is because it puts us in direct contact with the material energy in a very intimate way. We become yehi samspar sajaboka duka yonaya evite advayan panta kontaya nate su ramate buddha. We come in contact with the sense objects in a way that's way too close, and the result is dukkha yona yavate. And because we're becoming so bewildered by the distress that's coming from accepting these unfavorable attitudes, then our ability to actually hear the holy name in a mood of tasmat ekena manasa, or to understand the import of Srimad Bhagavatam, to cultivate this prema pumartha mahan, it becomes greatly diminished. It becomes greatly crippled. So one of those activities which is mentioned is this prajalpa. And this prajalpa, Raghunath Das Goswami explains, is also like a prostitute. Because a prostitute, she takes our money in a shameless way. In prajalpa, what it does is it takes away our eagerness for advancing in devotional service. So how do we overcome this propensity for inattentiveness? We have to be very, very attentive to the things which are favorable to devotional service. We have to be enthusiastic, which Srila Prabhupada explains means to endeavor with intelligence. And in order to cultivate proper intelligence, we need to be constantly absorbing our mind in the message of the Bhagavatam, absorbing our mind in the message of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and be reflecting on the import of those verses and how they're helping us cultivate our ultimate sadhya in life. Simultaneously, Rupa Goswami explains that we should be very confident in the process. We shouldn't feel discouraged if we don't become successful in 6 months or a year. Rather, we should have faith that I see devotees around me who have been around for 20 years and they made substantial advancement. And I see devotees who are a few years more senior to me and they're also making substantial advancement. So if I simply remain patient and I stay with the association of devotees, that just as a woman who becomes married to a husband naturally desires children, the time of conception, the process of patience begins, and within the 9-month period, the child will be born. So when we receive the Bhakti Lata Bij, we can have faith that this Bhava Bhakti is in the womb. It has been kindled by the pure devotee. Brahmananda Brahmi Te Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Bhakti Lata Bij. That although Bhava Bhakti is existing in our heart eternally, through coming in contact with a genuine spiritual master, as Srila Prabhupada said, a bona fide spiritual master, then what happens is just as wood is carried within fire, and the potential for fire is within the wood already, simply by adding some spark with a flint, that spark can turn that wood into fire. So similarly, by coming in contact with a spiritual master, we can be guaranteed that our success is sure. So we should just be patient and we should be confident in the process. And then simultaneously it says satovrite, which is probably one of the most important aspects of our advancing in devotional service. We should seek out good association. Sadhu Sangha Hoita Hoi Shravana Kirtanan Sadhana Bhaktya Hoita Sarvanartha Nivartan. That simply by being connected with Sadhu Sangha, engaging in the process of sadhana bhakti, and in the process of hearing and chanting, Sarvanartha Nivartan, all unwanted qualities will be removed from our heart as if automatically. Tata rajas tamo bhava kama lodbada yaschaye chaitan adir and advitvam stitvam sattve prasidyati. That all unwanted inhibitions will be removed automatically, provided we're attentive in our association. And then simultaneously, if we can beg for good association. Good association means finding those devotees who are Echai Gosai Kodi Charanan Vandhan, Janme 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 Hoy, Ehabilas. We should seek out those devotees who are sincere followers of Rupa Raghunath. Because by finding those devotees who are sincere followers of Rupa Raghunath, we can be guaranteed to be connected with the proper process of sadhana. We can be guaranteed to be connected with the proper attitude of sadhana. And simultaneously, we will develop the most important quality that is needed in order to make any advancement in devotional service. And this one quality, when we have, we can easily overcome inattentiveness. And this quality is Krishna Bhakti Bhavatamati Kriyatam Yati Katopi Labhyate Tatarloyam Api Mulyam Ekalam Janma Koti Shrukatarna Labhyate. That if Krishna Bhakti is available, the only qualification that one needs in order to attain it
is an intense eagerness to have it. So this eagerness, this lolium to chase after Krishna in the land of Vrindavan, this can only come through the association of a genuine Vaishnava, who is completely sold out to the Vani of Rupa Raghunath. And when we seek out that association and we inquire from them submissively, we render service unto them, and we try to maintain a disposition of serving them constantly, then the result will be Mahakripa Vina Konha, Krami Bhakti Nai, Samsara Duri Rahu, Samsara Nahi Syai. That without this association with this Mahakripa, if we can receive this Mahakripa, then we can actually engage in devotional service. But if we don't develop this lolium to associate with a genuine follower who's representing Rupa Raghunath's Vani, then our so-called activities of devotional service, Karmi Bhakti Nai, they're not actually devotion. And our ability to be extracted from samsara is just a dream. So our only hope for developing a disposition of attention, our only hope for overcoming the weeds of devotional service, is to seek out those Vaishnavas who are completely sold out to the Vani of Rupa Raghunath and who have a compassionate disposition. And through their own personal example and through their own activities of preaching, as Sanatana Goswami told Haridas Thakur, you are perfect because you're prachar and achar. You are absorbed in chanting the holy name and simultaneously you preach. Some people preach but they don't have good behavior. Some people have good behavior but they don't preach. But you do both things. So by seeking out that association of those genuine followers of Rupa Raghunath, we will imbibe the same qualities of eagerness and attention in our process of devotional service, and the result will be sarva nartha nivartan. All the obstacles of devotional service will be removed, our I and my conception of life will be removed, and this ability to overcome the entanglement of the material body will be easily removed by the grace of those followers of Rupa Raghunath. So we have about 7 minutes, so I'll open it up for some discussion. If there's any questions, a question is something which expands the vibration, and then if there's any comments or reflections, we can also be open for that. And a reflection is kind of just something that kind of allows for dialogue to take place. Rather than it just being me speaking to all of you, I get to hear some of your realizations in relationship to what was said. Om Tat Sat. Questions, comments? Mike.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for a wonderful description of the pure devotee. Actually, what you mentioned is a sincere follower of Rupa Raghunath who actually preaches and follows is very rare to get or associate with. So in case if you are not able to get, so what can be the methods by which we can, because we may not, our karma may not allow, or maybe Krishna wants us to test more. So what can be the right method to achieve it?
Well, Gaura Govinda Maharaj used to say that a pure Vaishnava, Mahabhagavat, isn't on the planet is not true. Because during his time there was a lot of propaganda about, Srila Prabhupada was the last person and Krishna's mercy ran out, so we just take shelter of Prabhupada now. That was an idea that was circulating during Gaura Govinda Maharaj's time. And what he said was very edifying, that how can a Mahabhagavat not exist? The sun is rising, the air is going, everything is being maintained within this material creation. So the only reason why this material creation is continuing to exist is because of the presence of that Mahabhagavat being there in order to extend Krishna's mercy, Krishna Kripa Shri Murti. So it's not that they don't exist, it's just we don't have the desire for it. So we need to refine our desire and look deeply within our heart and look deeply within the Shastra with what it is we should be setting our aim towards.
And then simultaneously, we should be very attentive towards trying to achieve that. And that's why I said at the beginning of the class, the definition of sadhana bhakti are those activities which make our heart available for bhava bhakti to descend. Shuddha sattva visheshatmam prayasuryam susamyabhak ruchubis chin mayashrinya kritaso bhava uchite. That bhava bhakti is the Shuddha sattva potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that Shuddha sattva can only make itself present through Krishna, the holy name, or the pure Vaishnav. So we have to really become eager for that association. It's not that it doesn't exist. It's just we lack the desire for it, and so Krishna doesn't reciprocate. We desire bhukti, mukti, siddhi, kam, sakaleya, shanta. And that's why our mind is always disturbed, because we're desiring things which are pratikul to sadhana bhakti. They're pratikul to bhava bhakti. They're pratikul to prema bhakti. And so because we desire these things, Krishna is within our heart. Yeya tam mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Krishna is reciprocating with that desire. So we have to pray on a daily basis, Krishna, please put me in the best association and give me the intelligence to take advantage of that association. Because I could already be in the presence of sincere followers of Rupa Raghunath. There's plenty available within the society of ISKCON. It's just that we have such a pashabhuti, we have such an animalistic consciousness that we're not able to appreciate their dedication. So we need to expand our consciousness and develop a disposition of udarati and have a very broad-minded conception and see the presence of these genuine followers of Rupa Raghunath. Otherwise, how could the Krishna consciousness movement continue to infect the hearts of the world? How could people continue to take on to accept the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktam Ishams Ishvaratarakam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes himself present through not only through his personal self, but through his various energies. And his personal energies, which are the most accessible to us, is Gurum and Isha Bhaktan, the Bhaktas and the Guru. So those genuine followers are there. It's just our intelligence is so restricted by material desires that we're not open to it. So we have to make a strong endeavor to pray for that association, and by Krishna's mercy, we'll receive that association. It's not that Krishna doesn't want to give us that association, it's that we don't want to accept it. We're like an owl hiding inside of a tree, and the sun is shining, and we're closing our eyes and we're hiding inside the tree and we're saying, there's no sun, there's no sun. But if you simply exit outside the tree and bask in the sunlight, then one can take full advantage of it. So we have to, asatomam sadgamoya, we have to exit this bodily conception of life and genuinely beg for that good association. It will come. Krishna will reciprocate. Just having an iota of a desire for this association, Krishna will surely reciprocate. But simultaneously, we have to pray for the intelligence to take full advantage of it. Because it may be there, but we're just so pasubhuti, we can't appreciate it.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Devavrata Prabhu, for showing so much weeds and all in heart, doing anatomy of heart actually practically for me. So my question is that when the previous anarthas come in again, so that time there is a possibility of becoming complacent and the spirit which was there, it reduces. So how do we deal with it? Means if they reoccur, then the same intensity, same seriousness, the attention level and all these things.
One of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disciples wrote him a letter regarding the same question that you asked him, regarding anarthas and when they display their prominence. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, if one's hearing and chanting is very strong, then anarthas won't display their presence. So if we're feeling our anarthas are becoming overwhelming, then we should get in the association of devotees whose hearing and chanting is very, very strong. And satam prasangam mamavirya sambado bhavanti hrit karna rasayana kata Tagjosna asu pavargavartmani sharir ratir bhaktir anukramishyti. That by their association it will act as a rasayana, a kind of medicine for our diseased heart, and surely we'll be able to overcome it. But it's just a matter of intensifying our application of hearing and chanting. And also sometimes our mind will trick us. Anarthas will display their prominence, but it's actually not as serious as we make it out to be within our mind. Our mind, its nature is to be a non-devotee, and it's trying to kick us off the path, dustamana. So we should just reveal our mind to devotees who are our well-wishers, devotees who are constantly, who have given their life to lifting us up. And from the very beginning of our Krishna consciousness, we're there to pull us out of the bodily conception of life. We're there to hear our problems. We're there to give us spiritual insights to those problems. And so we should just continue to take shelter of the association of devotees. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhana Bhaktya, Sadhu Sangha Hoita Hoy Shavana Kirtanam, Krishna Sadhana Bhaktya Hoya Sarvanartha Nivartan. These three things act as very powerful remedies to removing anarthas from the heart. Sadhu Sangha, process of Shravanam Kirtanam, and sadhana bhakti itself when applied properly. So I hope that answers your question. Hare Krishna. Yes, Balaram Leela Prabhu.
I'm feeling extremely delighted to be attending your Bhagavatam class. It's really an example of, I couldn't even recognize you. If I make a comment for a minute, that, the same boy I can say we saw like maybe, how many years is that we met? 6-7 years ago?
Yeah.
Maybe it's, what an amazing transformation. You're very special right at that time itself, but now it's like I couldn't even believe it actually. So this, I think, just gives me a pioneering example of that if you apply yourself, even if you are born in a completely different culture, and all, how you can make rise like a phoenix, as they say, or really make progress which cannot be explained in words properly. And what a scholarly class, oh my God, I can't even believe it. The young Western boy studying in college at that time and just got introduced maybe a little bit back, and how much you can learn and actually apply. I couldn't even catch up. This is probably one of the most dense classes I have heard, literally, in my last 15 years. Like, I couldn't catch up with my notes. I tried to make notes, I couldn't catch up at all. I don't know how many number of quotes you made and all that. Amazing. And you could relate to everything. You were relating with the Sanskrit, with the Bengali. That's not close to any of your native language. It's really absolutely my dandavats to you for this. And secondly, I literally could feel as if Vaisheshika Prabhu's representative is speaking. Because I could feel the style of Vaisheshika Prabhu, which was another example of your Guru Nishtha, I think, which is, so I'm just taking a minute to offer and hopefully learn from this most stellar example you have set. And it's really amazing again that I just came yesterday late night, and I was remembering that you are here in Pune and I should meet. And then the Bhagavatam class was announced, but I couldn't relate to your initiated name. And later Bhagavatam Prabhu said, he is speaking. I said, wow, Krishna's special mercy, you're speaking today. And the first time you're speaking here. So I took a minute to say that, but I have a question also. You quoted that Prajalpa is a prostitute. Just like a prostitute takes our money, Prajalpa takes our eagerness away. If you can elaborate on that, that would be nice.
Yeah, so my Guru Maharaj says where attention goes, energy flows. So there's a verse in the Bhagavatam that talks about the thousands of topics which one can engage in this world. I couldn't catch it. But there's thousands of topics which one can grab onto in this world, and the mind is very eager to grab onto those topics. So when we give attention to them through conversation, then it becomes an object of our meditation. The mind and the subtle body is very sensitive. Patanjali explains in the Yoga Sutras that it's like an eyeball. And a yogi is so careful about how he interacts with the world, because it's just like an eyeball. If you ever get like a piece of dust in it. The other day I was coming from VIIT, and I was on the back of a moped, and I got some dust in my eye, and it was in my eye like practically the entire day. And only at the end of the day was my eye able to filter it out, and it was very, very painful. So it's just a small little piece of dirt and gets into my eye, and it creates such a disturbance. So Patanjali explains that the subtle body is like that, particularly the mind and the intelligence. It's like an eyeball. It's so sensitive to the information that it's taking in. So we could be absorbed in the message of the Bhagavatam, and we could be absorbed in the holy name, but then after that we go talk about what's going on in Ukraine, we talk about what's going on with COVID, and we talk about this thing, that thing, who's getting elected next. And our mind becomes affected by it. And when we sit down to chant japa, again, rather than remembering what we heard in the Bhagavatam, we begin to remember Modi, Trump, all these characters of the material energy, all of Maya's different, puppets. And that becomes our object of contemplation against our will. So we have to be very, very careful to guard against prajalpa by staying absorbed in the message of Bhagavatam and simultaneously speaking about it. And one of the characteristics of a Vaishnava is that they're silent. So when it comes to speaking about things, they're only interested in hearing and talking about Krishna. And another point on prajalpa is that it can start as just friendly talks about what's going on in the world. But the most tenacious and dangerous form of prajalpa is sadhuninda. It degrades into look at him, look at her, and see how I'm better than them. When the Bhagavatam says that we shouldn't judge people according to their svabhava and karma, we don't know the position that they're in. We don't know what they're going through. So rather than criticizing them, we should try to have a broad udharadi disposition and take into consideration that Krishna is dealing with them, and they're connected with sadhana bhakti in some way, shape, or form. So we can have good faith that whatever needs to be taken care of, Krishna will kontiya pratijanihi name bhaktya pranasati. Krishna will work that out with them. But it's not our duty, unless we've been given the service of a guru or we've been given the service of a superior, to point those things out. Rather, we should try to be an instrument of encouragement, because the material energy is already discouraging enough. So we don't need to be a devotee wandering around in the society of devotees, criticizing those who are trying to, go towards the ultimate goal of life, prema bhakti. So we don't need to become a parasite within the society of Vaishnavas. And if we do develop this disposition, Krishna will see that we're removed from the association of devotees to protect us when we start criticizing Vaishnavas. So in this way, she enters in her heart and she grabs this eagerness for devotional service. Rupa Goswami explains that aparans, they're like the waning of the moon. It gradually, slowly, and then you have no eagerness, you have no taste, you have no absorption. And it's because of committing offenses, primarily from not paying attention to what we're doing. And due to that inattention, we commit all these other offenses, because most of the offenses, they're not done when we're just chanting. They're done when we're interacting with the world. And that contributes to our overall disposition, our overall state of consciousness at every moment. So the state of consciousness we carry throughout the day will be the state of consciousness that we have when we sit down and chant japa. So we should be very aware of the sensitive nature of this material energy and how dangerous it is to interact with in any way, shape, or form. Devaki, she had an intense fear
of Kamsa. And Srila Prabhupada explains in the purports to the 10th canto that this fear is a good thing for a devotee. A devotee should have a healthy fear of Maya. So we should be conscientious with what we're dealing with. And that, as Srila Prabhupada said, it's a war. We're engaging with war with the illusory energy, so we shouldn't take this process as some cheap thing. Thank you, Prabhu. I'm eternally indebted to you. So it's 9:10. I'm sure everyone's hungry. So thank you all very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dai Gaura Premanande. Mancha Kalpatriyambhascha Kapasindhide Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.